Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the feds have found massive fraud in Washington state. We'll give you all the details. And did anybody actually pay to get on any of those Sound Transit trains? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I know all anybody's talking about is Zoran Mamdanis' candidates and their sweep of New York. Now, I don't think anybody here in Washington is surprised when you hear that the Democratic Socialists of America are winning races in blue states. This is something we've seen happening here for years, literally 4 years. But something else is, this isn't about Democrat versus Democrat. This is about the Democratic Socialists of America, a far left, radical, communist, jihadi supporting group trying to destroy the Democratic Party, and it working under Zoran Mamdani. Zoran Mamdani is the new kingmaker for these races. And you say, Ari, how does this affect me here in Washington? What's happening over there is just New York. Well, let me give you a little example. Who, if I asked you, was one of the biggest leaders of the far left in Washington state in the legislature right now? You would say Senate Majority Leader Jamie Peterson. This is a guy who is all about transing the kids. He has talked about how he wants to hide what 13-year-olds do from their parents, even chopping off parts of their anatomy. And this is the guy who pushed the millionaire's tax, lied about it to get it across the finish line, did all the progressive hot-button issues. This is the guy who is the Senate leader, Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats. This guy had an amazing legislative session, got everything he wanted. But you know what he didn't get? The endorsement of the 43rd District Democrats for his reelection. He also didn't get the endorsement of the King County Democrats. Instead, that went to a new progressive, Hannah Sabio Howell. You say to yourself, who is Hannah Sabia Howell? So, outside of work, and I'm reading for her from her campaign page, I've been a member of the Urbanist Elections Committee and the Pro-Choice Washington PAC board for the past 4-year cycles, backing candidates for public office who champion policies to make our state more affordable, more connected, and more healthy. As a renter, a frequent transit rider, a cyclist, and a professional photographer, my experiences have shaped my connection and love of the 43rd District's community of urbanists and artists. I am also proud to be a queer, multiracial woman, found my way in the 43rd District in part because of the vibrant and inclusive community that makes so many people like me feel safe. Over the past 4 years in Washington State Legislature as a legislative aide for State Representative Larry Springer, who, by the way, is the one who warned that everybody's going to be hit with this income tax, and communications specialist for Senate Democrat caucuses, I've worked alongside legislatures to win taxes on the rich, make Washington economy fairer, expand healthcare access to illegal immigrants, make meaningful progress toward climate justice, and ensure everyday people know how to engage and shape state policy. You and I would think to ourselves, you already have Jamie Peterson. He's already on the far, far, far left. Why do they need to primary him? This woman says, my lived and professional experiences have reinforced and strengthened my core values. I believe in taking on the corporations that try to rig the rules at our expense and will never back down from any opportunity to organize with and uplift everyday people. That means strike against any company. I believe that equitable access and transparency is a non-negotiable part of state government that truly serves us. I don't even know what she's talking about there. I believe the transformative change we want is only possible through broad organizing, rioting, and community building, rioting, that includes renters, workers, immigrants, LGBTQ plus people, and everybody in our community. She says the fighting 43rd District has always shown fighting spirit looks like, something we need now more than ever if we're going to position Washington against a federal government giving handouts to billionaires, corporations, which she means that she wants them going to illegal aliens, while attacking the trans community. Immigrants, she means illegal immigrants. Women, she means men who identify as women. And workers, she means people who have never worked a day in their life. She means protesters. This is who they're running against Jamie Peterson. Because you can never be left enough for the far left. And they are eating the Democratic Party. Why do they call themselves the Democratic Socialists of America? They hate the Democrats and they hate America. They do that so that people will go, it's not that different. People like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was the host of Saturday Night Live years ago. What was this, 2016 when he was running for office? And they had, who was it? Larry David. Larry David was playing Bernie Sanders, talking to Bernie Sanders. And he says, oh, well, we're socialists. He goes, Democratic socialists. That's what they are. Are you kidding me? There is a difference between Democrats and Democratic socialists. Because the Democrat Party that you and I know, who are the far left people that you and I know, right? The far left people are Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris. They would now be considered moderate Republicans by these radical jihadis. That's who's running right now. You ask Democrats, Democrat Socialists of America and actual Democrats, they're not that different. Our esteemed political contributor, Vanilla Ice, explains exactly that.
It's not the same. Ours goes ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. Ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. That's the way theirs goes. Ours goes ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. Ding, 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 diggy, ding, ding. That little bitty change. It's not the same.
Not the same.
Rob Van Winkle has never been wrong.
Never, ever been wrong. But this is what's taking over the Democrat Party. And they say it themselves. Claire Valdez, one of the Mamdani acolytes, the mini Mamdanis, who's running, who won a primary last night. This is what the crowd was chanting at Hakeem Jeffries at the party.
You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next!
Because they want to take out Hakeem Jeffries as speaker. And you may think, Ari, how does this affect us here in Washington? Well, think about this. When you didn't get to vote in citywide elections anymore in Seattle, Shama Sawant represented one district, and we are still living under her insane policies, her terrible, horrible, no good, very bad policies. Minimum wage that put places out of business. Renter protections that make it that you can't kick out deadbeat tenants. I mean, the list goes on and on about the taxes she spiked, the problems she made that we are still dealing with today, like defund the police. Still dealing with it. So you wonder how somebody like this, think about this. You've got the squad right now. You've got AOC, Rashida Tlaib. You've got Ilhan Omar. You've got Pramila Jayapal. Pramila Jayapal, by the way, was so excited that all these people are going to be joining her progressive caucus. She doesn't realize that soon her and AOC will be too right for this caucus. They won't be left enough for them because you can never out-left the left. They just keep getting more radical and more radical and more radical. Think about that famous graphic you've seen before. There's a guy on the left, there's a guy on the right, there's a guy in the center. Then what happens? The guy on the left runs a few steps to the further left. Guy in the center stays where he is. Guy on the right stays where he is. Guy on the left goes further and further and further to the left. Guy in the center stays where he is. Guy on the right stays where he is. Then the guy on the left shoves the guy in the center. Guy on the right goes, you okay? Guy on the left points at the guy in the center and goes, you fascist. That's where we're at right now. That's why so many people are feeling politically homeless. Zoran Mamdani and his Democratic Socialists of America, which really are the jihadi socialists of the Middle East or wherever it is, because it ain't America. Most of these people aren't from America. A lot of these people have never worked a day in their life, and they're against capitalism. They've lived off the government dime. So maybe they are from America. They've lived off our welfare for that long. These guys want to destroy the Democratic Party. They want to wear it like a woman's suit, like in Silence of the Lambs. That's what they want to do. They want to wear it around and pretend they're Democrats when they're really, really not, which is why so many people feel politically homeless these days. They go, these guys don't represent me. And for those of you who think in a national election these guys won't do well, you are fooling yourselves. They just have to win their district. And they have to convince enough people that you are to blame for all their problems. Something fascinating is Claire Valdez. She won in a district that's the Bronx and Harlem. Very, 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 very Hispanic and black communities. All the people at her election night party are white. All of them, white, college progressives. Look at the videos. Don't believe me? Go look at all those people chanting to Hakeem Jeffries, you're next, you're next, you're next. In fact, Speaker Johnson called this out today, exactly what's happening in the Democrat Party.
You saw the result of this latest, these primary elections for the Democrat Party. The headlines this morning say it all. I've got a collection of them here. Socialist earthquake, one of them said. Mamdani candidates sweep New York House races. These are socialists. These are Marxist in their ideology. Next headline, Mamdani hails new chapter for Democrats, one of the Chirons said this morning on the news. Hakeem Jeffries, my counterpart, the Democrat leader here in the House, was booed at some of these return parties last night. You saw that on social media and some of the clips. When he was being interviewed on the screen, the crowds in New York, in his own backyard, in the Bronx, in one of these districts, were booing him. And they shouted, "You're next." Hakeem Jeffries has a tall task ahead of him right now. He's got to go out and somehow make a credible pitch to Democrat establishment donors that that's a good national investment right now. That's a tough one to make. He has just proven that he cannot even hold the line in his own backyard. How can he possibly defend against the Marxist march around the country in these other districts? This is not your father's Democrat Party, as we say all the time. Last night, among the incumbents who lost, Adriano Espaillat, who's chair of the Democrats' Hispanic Caucus, Dan Goldman, who was mocked for his Jewish heritage in a coffee shop in New York and maligned online because of that. The Democrat Party, the socialists, the Marxists, have nominated some of the most radical candidates to ever run for office, and they're running for Congress. The insurgent left is on the rise. I was reminded all last night and this morning about the warning, the admonition from the...
Yeah, here's the thing, guys. Speaker Johnson's wrong. They're not communists. They're not Marxists. They're not socialists. These are jihadis. That's what they are. Don't believe me? This is what Zoran Mamdani said last night.
I think of the freedom from suffering that Buddhism teaches us is only possible if we remove the three poisons of desire, hatred, and ignorance from our daily lives. We need not accept suffering as unchangeable. We need not treat hatred as the natural state. We have the power to set ourselves free. And I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, "As for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world." Or as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers. If faith...
He didn't say that at a party last night. He said that this morning, standing in front of the American flag and the flag of the city of New York, behind the seal of the city of New York at an official podium. Fun fact, by the way, because either he's lying or he doesn't actually know the history of his own religion. A friend of mine told me this. He keeps the Quran in the bathroom and he reads it for education. I just keep it on a shelf. But what happens is he said that America should follow the example of Islam and the Prophet Muhammad on migration. After conquering Mecca, Muhammad deported all the Christians and Jews and banned them from entering the city ever again. To this day, non-Muslims can't set foot in Mecca because they're being considered dirty and impure. Is that the model you want to follow? Or are you conveniently leaving out those parts? This slate by Zoran Mamdani celebrates 9/11, wants the fall of America. They want to destroy America. They talk about how it's evil, how it's awful, how they're colonizers, you name it, everything. How we deserved 9/11. One of them is even affiliated with Al-Qaeda. Bunch of them support Hamas. One of them on October 8th, while Hamas terrorists were still invading Israel, October 8th, 2023, was at a rally in New York City. Do you remember this rally? It was the one they advertised for the DSA with pictures of the paragliders Hamas used on Israel, and their whole point was to support Hamas, and they were ready to go really quickly. They organized, they mobilized really, really quickly in Times Square. The left will not acknowledge what's actually happening to their party. The Democrats will not actually acknowledge it. They're so desperate to hold on to power. They're holding on by their fingertips, not realizing that by giving into this, they are losing their own power. Hakeem Jeffries gave into this. He's going to get ousted as Speaker if they win the House. He's going to get ousted as Democrat leader if they win. He is going to get ousted, guaranteed. Chuck Schumer, he's gone. Just watch, they'll come for him next. One day you'll think AOC were the glory days. Right now we're thinking, wow, Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton weren't so bad. Look at these crazies.
Bye.
Exactly. That's what they're going to say. Here's Senator Raphael Warnock, who is seen as a far-left progressive, just going, oh, it's fine, it's fine.
What do you think the future of the party is? Is it the Democratic Socialists of America who won in New York last night?
We are a big tent party. That's who we are.
Okay. If the Republicans said, you know that KKK, we're a big tent party. Let them all in. We're fine.
We know the Democrats are a big tent party. Look at all the homeless.
They're
big on
very
tents.
good. Very, very good. I would just say they're just the tent party, but sure. Never mind that. All the occupations on campuses, too. Not just that. They love tents.
Big tents, little tents.
Little tents. Any kind of tents. They keep REI in business, those guys.
They're in tents.
Except when they're in... Very good. Very good, Zach. Very, very good. But yet, they aren't realizing what's going on, or they do realize what's going on. They're just trying to hold on to that little bit of power. This is a huge deal what happened last night. And if you think it doesn't affect you because you don't live in New York, because you don't live in Michigan, as I open this segment with, it is happening right here as well. The majority of the Democrats are endorsed by the Democrat Socialists of America, and those that aren't are being primaried by people who are endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America or by terrorist-affiliated organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations. That's who's running for office this cycle. And when you go, it's okay, let them have that district or let them have that district. You get what we have here in Washington, where soon they have so many districts, they are the majority of the voting power. This is what is happening in blue states around the country. And if you think they're not going to try this in places like Florida, you are dead wrong. They won't stop until they have everything. Everything. This election is not between Democrats and Republicans. It is between the people who love America, the people who love capitalism, the people who love free markets, the people who love freedom, and the radical jihadi communist Marxists that are trying to take it over and destroy all of it. I notice they think all of it's so terrible, and yet they live here in the U.S. They're trying to drain it dry and destroy it and reshape it in their image. And if you think I'm kidding about this, my phone blew up this morning with friends of mine in New York. Blew up this morning. And they all say they're considering leaving. And they're not considering leaving just New York. They think to themselves, if this can happen in New York, a city with the largest Jewish population in America, it can happen to the rest of the country. And something very, very scary, I don't want to sound like people like Rosie O'Donnell who say, oh, we're leaving the U.S. But there are real conversations being had right now about, is America's 250th birthday going to just be the last time we really experience this level of patriotism before this country gets remade into something else? Look, Roman Empire only lasted a few hundred years. All empires rise and fall. All countries rise and fall. are we watching in real time the downturn of America? And this is something we've seen happen too often. Germany was considered peak of society, peak of culture, peak of class. They were considered peak of industrialization. And look what happened to Europe. Look what happened to Europe when something like that fell. And I sometimes wonder about my relatives. When they realized it was too late to get out. When they realized it was just too late. And if you think I'm exaggerating this, I've had people calling me all morning talking about this. All morning. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm a little too serious about all this stuff or if you think I'm spot on. Give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from John in Seattle. John, what's up, man? Hello, John. John. Hello, John. There you are. Gotcha, John. What's going on?
So I'm happy that since June the 8th, all the passengers that are bound to Seattle from Canada, from Vancouver, have to undergo screening by TSA agents in Vancouver, in British Columbia, at the train station before they are able to board the Cascade, the Amtrak Cascade. I think it's a very good development for our security because since then, if there are bad actors that are planning to board trains into America, and also like if they got COVID or anything, they'll be able to be intercepted outside the United States in Canada. And I think that we should Trump should extend the pre-clearance to also like all roads that are leading from Canada into the U.S., like on the Gordie Howe Bridge in Windsor.
Well, funny you should mention that. The Democrats actually worked against that. Democrats here at the University of Washington and Washington State made it so that the Border Patrol couldn't use certain kind of cameras anymore. They were doing that so that you couldn't use the borders and the cameras at the border. That's how hard they were working against us. And I'll also remind everybody that during Trump's first term in office, he was literally doing that with countries like Mexico. One of the first things Biden got rid of was the pre-screening. That's where you apply for asylum. That's where you apply for all that, was the pre-screening places in that country before you even came here. And I'll go back even further. People like to say, Ari, what about your relatives coming through Ellis Island? First of all, my relatives didn't come through Ellis Island. They came through Castle Garden. Different story. But to get to Ellis Island, you need to have a ticket that you paid for. You need to have the paperwork showing that you had a job and a place to live before you even got on that ship. Otherwise, they weren't letting you get there. Good. At Ellis Island itself, you had to undergo the medical screenings and everything else when you got here, and that's when a lot of people got sent back.
Very good.
Yeah. So, John, all this stuff has been done before. We just need to have the political will in order to do it. Yeah, appreciate the call. Great points, man. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, Sound Transit is bragging about all these big numbers of ridership increasing. How many of them actually paid for it? And what metric are they using to measure this? Give you all details when we come back. Every single news outlet in town is covering this story because it's a very long, well-written press release that has very little data. We have asked for the data. In fact, I emailed them earlier as well today asking for the data, and I don't have it. So I'm just going to read to you what Sound Transit released today. U.S. versus Australia drew 280,000 riders on Link Light Rail. Preliminary numbers show Friday smashed previous ridership records. Thursday ridership of 236,000 also beat the previous record. Stop. Can we analyze this for a second? You want me to be impressed that you broke a ridership record when you imported hundreds of thousands of people for an occasion? Do you know when I'll be impressed with this? When everybody leaves. When everybody leaves. And if the numbers for ridership continue going up and up and up, and that thing is packed every single day with commuters like it's Boston or New York or Chicago, then I'll be impressed. Until then, this is not a story in terms of, wow, look how many more people are using the light rail. You brought in people who don't live here, who are in hotels, who are in Airbnbs on a weekend when the flights were insane. It was my wife's grandmother's 101st birthday. 101st, as we say, Kanainahara. God bless. And what happens is the family couldn't come in because it was last weekend during the USA versus Australia. The plane tickets from New York were $1,000. So as opposed to my wife's sister and her whole family coming in, just my wife's sister came in. One of her cousins, as opposed to him and his 5 kids coming in, he just came in. That was it, because the tickets are so expensive. What do you think the rental car rates are right now? And even if you had one, where are you going to park it? So once you factor all, Zach and I, we are going down to broadcast from the protest zone of the World Cup on Friday for Egypt versus Iran on Pride Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are. Oh, Zach, I didn't tell you this, by the way. We know that the anti-regime protesters are going. We know that the anti-regime Israeli protesters are going. We know that the anti-regime pro-American people are going. That anti-America pro-Hamas soccer club that's been in all the Seattle parks recently.
What a niche group.
I know, seriously. They have actually been in the parks and they're holding Hezbollah flags and all that. They are planning on having an event in Pioneer Square. Now, I don't know where you're going to play soccer in Pioneer Square. Something tells me they're just showing up to protest, but we already know that group of counter-protesters is going to be there. Who else is going to be there? So, Sound Transit, I have another question for you. How many people paid for the light rail? And then here's another thing. If nobody's paying for the light rail, how'd you track how many people are on the trains? And then I have another question for you on top of all this, just on top of all this. If people did pay for it, you want to know why? Because they're probably from out of town in places where they expect you to pay for transit and don't know that nobody's actually checking. They can't check during Seahawks games. You think they're actually checking during any of this? We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up, man?
I want you to share with everyone.
Joe, stop. Joe, can't understand what you're saying, man. Unmuffle your phone or whatever's going on there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Can you please share with everyone what you would say to Jewish Democrats, from Jamie Raskin to Vanessa Kritzer to Jerry Paulette, to Laureen Warrior, the great Navy war hero? I mean, I'd like to hear that. And then I'd like to respond to all your Sound Transit stuff, because I do know how they're tracking passengers.
Okay, well, first let's back up a second here. What would I tell Jewish Democrats who are running for office here in Washington? I would ask them, who are their opponents? First, I would say, are your opponents on the right or the left? And then I would wonder, Joe, and you should ask them this very same question. Why haven't they said anything about what's going on in their party? Because they're afraid. That's why. They're afraid of being primaried. And a perfect example I'll give you is Jesse Solomon. Jesse Solomon, who didn't say this conversation was off the record, called me to tell me he was afraid and they were threatening him with primarying him. So that is why he doesn't speak up. Why don't the rest of them, Joe?
Exactly. I don't want to share everything on air, but I do know I have a Democratic Jewish friend who is just as scared as Mr. Solomon, and I've had to deal with that dynamic this year, and I got to tell you, it is absolutely gutting.
Yeah, but they shouldn't be scared. If they want to run for office and they want to represent people, guess what? I live here too. And they may disagree with me on politics, but I think combating terrorist groups is something we should all be on the same page of, and yet they never speak up. How do you think they're tracking people on light rail, Joe?
All right. Well said, Ari. And I will just say that, there are these little things called trackers embedded in the trains and buses that can count how many passengers.
Okay, so they're not tracking it by how many paid tickets, right?
They're not doing fare checks right now. I was just riding Link today and Monorail, and the Monorail had this thing called fare gates that were incredibly easy to use, but the light rail is still delaying on getting fare gates. And we could use your voice tomorrow afternoon. You could call in to Sound Transit at 1:30 and give full airy ire to the Sound Transit board. And
if I am not doing interviews during then, I am more than happy to yell at the Sound Transit board. Email me the link. I'll check it out. Okay, Joe?
Let's fly together virtually, man.
All right. Appreciate the call, Joe. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, the feds found massive fraud in Washington. Had a chance to go through it. Holy cow. You might even go to some of these places and not even realize it. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Before we get to what's going on in the swamp, got some great texts here that I just want to mention. So Dave, weighing in on our last segment, we're talking about how much a rental car is. He says, my cousin brought his family to visit here for a week. If he weren't borrowing the grandparents' car, a rental car would have been $2,000 for the week. That's insane. Insane. Darren says, if they're not even charging people to ride it, that's just terrible business. Exactly. You have all these people here. Hey, Sound Transit, you want a line that goes out to Ballard? Well, you're not going to pay for it with just the people coming in for one day or a couple days, but you'll be closer to your goal. And then you can say, look, we found all this money from all these riders. Wasn't that great? And get the activists off your back.
It'd be like if you had a lemonade stand and you always gave like the neighbor kid lemonade for free. And then it's like, oh my goodness, a stampede. Well, we give the neighbor kid lemonade for free. Might as well give it to everyone else for free too.
Exactly right. Karen here says, Ari, what can we do to stop these jihadis from taking over the country? Well, here's the thing, Karen. Karen used to live here. Now Karen lives in Phoenix. So thank you for listening from Phoenix. Number one, Karen, I think she listens over on the Facebook, the Book of Faces. But I'll tell you, the first thing is stop calling them socialists. Stop calling them Democrats. Start calling them what they are, which is jihadis. You have to start doing that. When your friend goes, oh, you're exaggerating, you go, there is literally a member of Al-Qaeda running in New Jersey. The people Zoran Mamdani endorsed are literally talking about their support for terrorist organizations. The guy in Dearborn, Michigan supports Hamas. Stop calling them socialists. Stop calling them communists. Stop calling them Marxists. And start calling them jihadis. And when they say, oh, you're a racist for saying that, you say, they say that themselves. They say that themselves. You start there and you start having these conversations. That's the first thing. And also, Karen, as a refugee from Seattle, you have to tell everybody in Phoenix what's headed their way. That's the most important thing. And you can't just say, I'm in Phoenix. I'm going to sit back and listen to the Ari Hoffman Show because the Ari Hoffman Show is the greatest talk radio show in the entire country, as much as we appreciate that. You have to go out there and do. You have to get involved in the political process because I don't think it's been corrupted in Phoenix the way it's corrupted here in Washington. So, speaking of Washington, by the way, yesterday we told you about the big announcement that feds found $6.5 billion in alleged fraudulent health care claims. And yet we found out a bunch of it was right here in Washington. And we promised you yesterday we'd pull all the details. Among the largest Washington settlements was Tooth Docs, formerly known as Comfort Dental Camas, whose owners, Dr. Brady Smith and Dr. Erica Lenz, timeout, are those Somalia names? See, I said if the Somalis were doing this, other people were doing it too. Just the Somalis figured out how everybody could do it and get in on it. Agreed to pay $500,000 to resolve allegations of practice improperly billed Washington Medicaid for a whole bunch of stuff they shouldn't have, and it resulted in $371,000 in Medicaid losses. Comfort Dental in Vancouver and Dr. Eric Wood agreed to pay $230,000 to settle allegations that the practice billed Medicaid for stuff they shouldn't have, which resulted in $153,000 in losses. Dentist at Felinda and owner Dr. Christian Okafor agreed to pay $360,000 to resolve allegations involving improper billings. Divina Hernandez, 28 of Yakima, was charged with theft and false statements after allegedly billing for home health care hours while her client was hospitalized and no health care was being provided. Losses of thousands of dollars. Jacqueline Montano of Moses Lake was charged with theft and false statements after allegedly billing for personal care services she did not perform. Thousands of dollars. Lina Parado of Burien was charged with theft and false statements after allegedly billing Medicaid for home care services she never provided. In Spokane, Nicole Presnell, Jason Ross, Amanda Vermeulen, and Tracy L. Walker were charged with conspiracy, theft, Medicaid false statements, and solicitation to commit Medicaid false statements. According to charging documents, the group allegedly conspired between 2023 and 2025 to bill Medicaid for in-home care hours that were never worked, resulting in alleged loss of more than $141,000. The list goes on and on and on, but were a single one of those Somali names? A single one. I said, when all this Somali fraud was revealed, if they're doing it, lots of other people are doing it too. And if you notice what's interesting about this, the lamestream media is actually covering this fraud when they tried their best not to cover the Somali fraud. Why? Because here it's white people. Because they can go, oh, the white people committed white-collar crimes. It's fraud. So why weren't they covering it when the Somali community was doing it? Oh, and by the way, got a public disclosure request back that shows that our very own internal organizations here in Washington State were not surprised when they heard the fraud was happening.
It was Steven Spielberg Public Disclosure Day.
Yeah, wasn't. We should call it that from now on. Too bad nobody saw the movie, so nobody will know what we're talking
I would say
about.
that reference only works if people saw the movie.
Nobody saw that movie.
And as one of our good friends once said, I saw it for free and I want my money back.
That's a great way to put it. Really is. Which, by the way, reminds me, at 4:45 today, we're going to talk about the Supergirl movie, which I saw last night. And let me put it this way. Wokeness wasn't an issue. That was not where this movie failed. 4:45 today, we'll have that review for you. But coming up next, this controversy over hats in Major League Baseball and what you have to wear for Pride Day or any other day has reached new levels of insanity. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. let me catch everybody up because the holy month of Pride is almost over. So there's this controversy in Major League Baseball because some of the I was about to say New York Giants. Wow, that was just autopilot. Some of the San Francisco Giants, they had to wear pride hats for Pride Night, and they wrote Bible verses on the hats. And then there was a Major League Baseball was going to fine them, and then the Justice Department says freedom of speech, don't you dare, and then Major League Baseball backed off. But this has kind of overshadowed all the games recently. So now the baseball players are being asked about the controversy in the locker room, and these guys are like, I just want to play baseball. That's all I want to do. So listen to what happened when Buster Posey was asked about this.
Did you object to those nights when you were a player? And also, did you or anyone from the organization talk to Tony, talk to the players, and explain the importance of this demographic to your business, the importance of this evening for the fans?
I mentioned that I'm not going to revisit it, so if you want to ask baseball questions, I'll answer baseball questions.
Do you plan to reach out to the gay community about any of this, or no?
Again, if you want to go baseball questions, I made my statement on it. I'll answer baseball questions.
But do you have no response to the commissioner saying inadequate and unclear communication?
I'll answer baseball questions.
Is that respect?
I believe so, yeah.
Buster, why do you want to only answer baseball questions? There are some very important matters.
Because he's a baseball player, perhaps. Because he's a baseball player, maybe. Have you ever, none of you people are sports people, are you? Here's what a baseball interview normally looks like. Zach, ask me about a game that I just played in.
Any comment on that walk-off?
Well, we gave 110%, and it was a real team effort, and I just got to thank my boys because they always had my back, and we did a great job, and I just hope we can take this all the way to the championship.
You had that sack fly in the seventh. Any comment?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I just saw the ball, and I saw the ball real clearly, and I was able to get under the ball, and I'm glad I was able to get that before they could get the other guy home, and we were able to throw that ball in rocket fast. That's how this normally goes. You're asking political questions, and the guy has said how many times he's not going to do it? Oh, they didn't give up.
The public is debating outside this organization.
I'm going to answer baseball questions.
Do you feel it's not your job as president of baseball operations? I mean, is this something we should be talking to Larry about?
Guys, we just need to keep it baseball related, or...
Well, you guys have made this baseball related because you had Pride Night. You allowed players onto the field that MLB said should not have had writing on their caps, violated MLB rules. Then MLB said that you guys didn't communicate with the players properly, that they didn't have to wear the hat. So there's been no response about that.
We get it. Buster made his statement. If you guys have any baseball questions, he can answer those, or we're going to be done.
This is the problem with getting politics into sports. This is the problem with putting your business in the middle of politics. This is what happens with injecting politics into your business. You can't win. And no matter what you do, even though you did the hats, they're mad about 3 players. There are, 30 other guys on that team who wore the hats? They don't care about that. They care about the 3 players that are expressing their free speech rights. And they're mad about that. They're mad about the 3 that express their free speech rights because it disagrees with what their opinion of all this pride nonsense should be. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Up next, King County numbers of homeless hit record highs after record amounts of taxpayer money has been spent. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text on the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Rashida Tlaib, a terrorist supporter, defends the Antifa leader terrorist who shot a cop. In other news, water's still wet. But before we get to any of that, my friends, we now have your chance to take the trip or keep the cash. That's right, my friends. Thank you to our in-house Pink Floyd cover band that shows up every day around this time to help us out. We are giving away your choice of either $3,000 cash or a trip to Boston and Philadelphia. Now, to enter for your chance to win, text the word I give you to the number I give you. Do not text your pants size. Do not text your email address. Do not text anything else. Just the word itself for your chance to win. Today's word is ivy, as in poison ivy, as in Ivy League. Text the word ivy, I-V-Y. Spell it right, people. I-V-Y. Text the word ivy to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. For your chance to enter to win, take the trip or keep the cash. That's right, $3,000 or a trip to Boston or Philadelphia. That's right, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Well, my friends, we heard a voice from the past today who for some reason was invited on The Weeknd. I'm not familiar with these guys. We don't mean the artist who runs around with the weird face masks at the Super Bowl, not the TikTok dancer Weeknd, not that guy. The Weeknd invited on former governor of Washington, Jay Inslee.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
Now, what words of wisdom did Jay Inslee have to share with The Weeknd?
So we have the problem statement, which is real clear, which is Donald Trump giving us cost, chaos, and corruption. And we have the answer, which is clean energy, which is abundantly available. And fortunately, it's happening. 90% of all of the new generating capacity in the United States last year was clean, renewable energy. If he'll just get out of the way and stop his insane and corrupt bargain to try to force this dirty energy down Americans' throat. We're paying way too much.
Okay, Jay. Jay, go back to sleep. Jay, go to Idaho. Can we break this down for a second? So hang on a second. You think we're paying too much? Aren't you the guy that pushed for and signed the Climate Commitment Act that spiked gas prices back when Joe Biden was president, long before Trump was back in office, and gave us the second highest gas prices in the U.S.? Right, that was you, right? Did the Climate Commitment Act also spike utility prices? Yeah, pretty sure. Now, wait a second. When you're spiking utility prices and you're spiking gas prices, there are effects of this. Farming gets more expensive, which means that things that you find in the grocery store are more expensive. Transportation of goods you get in the grocery store and other stores gets more expensive. The energy you need to produce these items gets more expensive. Didn't you and Bob Ferguson also tell Puget Sound Energy to hide that information so people wouldn't know it was the Climate Commitment Act that was spiking the prices? Didn't you also conspire to send out a rebate for $200 so people wouldn't think it was so bad and then you could tax them for the rest of their lives? Didn't you say it would be pennies, just be pennies that was going to affect everybody? Didn't you guys also refuse to comply with the state law requiring the reporting of CO2 levels?
It can't even cost pennies. We don't have them anymore.
Oh, so there you go. See, he's double lying. Actually, truthfully, the penny thing was afterwards. But Donald Trump got rid of pennies. And now it can't be pennies. It's just nickels and dimes. And dollar bills. We have to get rid of the dollar bills because you're killing the trees.
I do get rid of my dollar bills every time I fill my gas tank. So many of them.
Exactly. I filled up the Charger today. Wow, man. Okay. Yes, I know I'm the one who chooses to drive it, but come on. It was worth it for yesterday. My brother-in-law pulls up next to me. I was at his house dropping off my niece, and he pulls up next to me in his little tiny Subaru, which has these little 4-door. It's not even an Outback. It's a mini Outback. It's whatever that thing is without the rest of it. It's the Outback without the lesbian. It's whatever it is that he's got over there. Pulls up next to me, and he revs his little, what is it, V4 Boxster or whatever it is he's got in that sucker. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So I just put mine in park and rev my V8 SRT Hemi, the big sucker. That's right, the whole block shook.
How many liters is yours?
How many liters? I'll give you a liter of cola. I forgot offhand. I'm blanking. Man, I'm cracking under the pressure.
I just want to
right
know
here.
if my little dainty car is bigger.
I don't think so. We could check. We could compare engine sizes later. We could do that, Zach. That's fine. Anyway, even filling up my inline 6 Charger that I got from our friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, even filling that up is getting expensive. So, isn't also, you talk about corruption, Jay. Isn't the CCA basically a slush fund for retired politicians like Ruben Carlisle to just get all this money out of it and you spend on other things? You like give out political favors and such? So spare me your nonsense, Jay. Nobody wants to hear it anymore. Go back to Idaho. Nobody wants to hear from it at all. Nobody wants to hear from you. What channel is The Weekend on? Is this an M. Snow, MSNBC? Who are these people? I mean, I don't know. I don't watch MSNBC. I did like it the other day when Tom Hanks was being interviewed by MSNBC, and he says, "What can I do for the 800 listeners of MSNBC?" which was great, absolutely great. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from our friend Mario. Mario, what's going on, man?
Hey, everybody. Didn't I tell you, haven't we talked this many times over the years, where I told you that the Democratic Party now should be renamed? Like, I know you said they're all the same, the Communist, Socialist, Marxist Party of America, because basically they have been taken over. They have allowed themselves, they have financed this themselves, their own takeover by these radical, whether you refer to them jihadists, Islamic terrorists, which that's what they are. They have allowed this. I listened to that clown Mamdani talking about if you were a Muslim that immigrated, and I said, I started thinking about reading throughout history how many Christians these guys killed and converted when they invaded in the old days, and they killed many of them, and they forced these guys to convert, which Christians ended up fighting Christians who converted to Islam, and then the Christians realized that these Muslim clowns were murderers, and they staged a couple of battles which they basically destroyed them over the years. And we don't realize this, but they have made it a goal. The communists, the Chinese are in it, all the Marxists are in it. They have made it a goal to sneak into a major party in the United States, and that is the Democratic Party today, my friend.
Yeah.
And what I'm telling you is, in these major cities, look at the clowns that vote for these people, right? College graduates that are brainwashed in the university system, and immigrants that don't give a damn, and forgive my English, about coming here and assimilating into our great country.
Yeah, man. And I'll tell you something, Mamdani's no dummy. I know people like to call him Mamdani, but he is not a dummy at all. He knows exactly what he is doing, and it's very, very, very dangerous. And that's why I like when you call in, Mario, because you live through this and you can caution other people about it. Colombia was smart enough to say no more socialism in their last election, while America's going, yeah, let's bring it on. Appreciate the call, man. Appreciate the wise words. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Kelly in Seattle says, Ari J. Inslee should be dragged back to Washington and forced to live and pay taxes in the cesspool he created. Make him live the worst part of downtown. Well, right now, he'll probably enjoy it, right? You got to wait till after that. You know what you got to wait for? You know what's going to go back to being really bad? January of next year. In the winter, in the dark, after the holiday season. You may get through the holiday season, but January is when you're going to see the resurgence. Watch. And also, it shows a lack of political will that they don't want to deal with this. If you can clean it up for the World Cup, you can clean it up the rest of the year. If you could dye the Chicago River green for St. Patty's Day, like in that Fugitive movie, you can dye it blue the rest of the year. It's the political will wanting to actually do it. Speaking of things that are getting worse around here, new report came out yesterday. It's the 2026 point-in-time count from King County. This is what they use every year to say how they're doing in homelessness. Now, they tried to dress this up of, look what we've done, look what we've accomplished, and I'm just going to zero in on one little fact here. Ready? According to the King County Regional Homeless Authority, these are their numbers. Between 2022 and 2024, the number of homeless increased by 26%, rising from 13,368 to 16,868. In fact, we're 2 decades after King County launched its 10-year plan to end homelessness? Do you know how many people they had who were homeless in King County when they launched this thing? Anybody have any idea? 2,000. 2,000. I looked it up. So you had 2,000 homeless people in all of King County back then, according to their numbers, and now you have 16,868. We would have been better off not spending a single dime on any of this. The billions of dollars wasted shows how futile this has been. You have encouraged it. Oh, let's just build more apartments. You know what this is like? Feeding the cat that keeps coming back to your house. You give it a little thing, it'll come back the next day. Like that song, the cat came back the very next day. The cat came back, he just couldn't stay away from the Cat in the Hat, the audio one that I had as a little kid.
That is a remarkably specific song.
I'm telling you that it was the cat came back the very next day. Oh, the cat came back. I know some people in their car are giggling right now. Like, hi, listen to the same kitty tape Ari Hoffman did. Certain songs just stick in your head. You can't get rid of them 30 years later.
It's more of a baby beluga in the deep blue sea type of guy.
I don't know what that is. See, I don't know. Is this a baby shark nonsense or something like that? Of the time. Okay. See, I don't know these things. So you had less than 2,000 homeless people back in 2005, less than 2,000. And now you have over 16,000. You are failing. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority tried to dress this whole thing up because they've got all these fraud and mismanagement allegations against them. So what's their latest excuse? It's not fraud. We're just incompetent. Como News has the report for us.
Tonight on Waste Watch, the agency tasked with homelessness response in King County says millions of missing dollars flagged by auditors are linked to reimbursements never billed to the city of Seattle and King County for services provided. They admit that's on them, but insist the city and county owe them money. Let's get to Como's Michelle Esteban for more tonight. Michelle.
Well, I can tell you this, the Homelessness Authority says that this really emphasizes that this $8 million is not missing taxpayer money. But that said, it still appears it's going to cost taxpayers.
Where's the money? It's been a question since this April audit. $13 million in public funds that auditors said could not be fully accounted for at the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. And $8 million of that identified as unreconciled receivables. Now, nearly 2 months later, leaders at the Homelessness Agency say much of that $8 million is money the city and King County owe them.
Basically, these are the funds that we should have billed to King County and the city of Seattle and that we didn't.
This during a June 8th briefing before the King County Council.
The report that there was missing funds relates to funds that were simply spent by KCRHA on provider services, but not billed back to either the city of Seattle or King County.
The agency's associate director, William Toey, said they are in the process of a cash accounting to help identify what the exact amounts are and who they accrue to.
Did I hear you correctly to say that KCRHA believes that King County and Seattle owe the agency money, and if so, how much?
Yeah, you heard me correctly.
The April audit revealed the agency's accounting controls, record keeping, and financial oversight inadequate. In May, the King County Council unanimously approved a motion to review the agency, evaluate next steps, including dismantling it entirely.
there was a reported $8 million that had been unaccounted for. I did not take on board that there was an $8 million that was unaccounted for that now will have to come out of the backs of our taxpayers. That's not great.
The audit found no evidence of fraud. The agency's future remains uncertain. Much of it will depend on the county's review.
Ensuring that continues to operate in a stabilized and effective manner is, I think, of a priority for all concerned.
I'm just afraid that this is a sinking ship. And regardless of all the work that's going in, it feels like fiddling on the Titanic.
A final recommendation on the agency's future is expected on August 1st. Also, I want to mention that the King County Executive, as well as the mayor of Seattle, last Monday announced they have embedded an independent financial analyst in that agency. That's the very latest. Michelle Esteban, Como News.
Wow. You embedded one independent analyst in that. Wow. Slow clap. Well done, guys. That's going to fix it. Oh, you got a massive head wound? You got shot in the head? Give him a Band-Aid and an aspirin. He'll be fine. Walk it off. Walk it off. We'll do this Little League style. Just walk it off. You'll be fine. Bear down. You'll be fine. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Dismantle it. Shut it down. It cannot be saved. But they're going to keep running all this stuff. Like, for example, former King County Executive Dow Constantine's Health Through Housing program, which current King County Executive Gurmay Zahalai supported at the time. 4 years ago, they announced they were converting the former La Quinta Hotel. You remember this? You remember this craziness? Was it out in Kirkland? Into low-barrier permanent supportive housing for drug addicts. Guess what? It's opening now, my friends. So your area, you guys have been fine for a while, but I remember the protests. They were the first year, second year we were on air. This was a huge deal. The neighborhood was all mad about it. The Sheila Stanton Place will be operated by Plymouth Housing. Oh, because their facilities are always wonderful and fantastic.
Sorry, who's going to run it?
Plymouth Housing? Exactly right. Known for the stabbings. Wait. It was Plymouth Housing where one of their social workers got stabbed by one of their homeless, drug-addicted, vagrant clients. Right, we have to call them clients. Clients. The day that the Seattle City Council voted to defund the police department in favor of social workers. Well done, everybody. Really well done. The site is just north of 520 and just east of Lake Washington Boulevard, according to our friends over at Peak Seattle. It sits between the cities of Kirkland and Bellevue, but it was Kirkland city government that facilitated the project. It also happens to be right across the street from a Montessori preschool. Awesome. There's also a few parks nearby. This is going to be great. Oh, there's a park and ride too. So lots of stuff to steal from. This is excellent. But now you get a free hotel room on King County's dime so you can come from wherever. And let's not forget, what did Jenny Durkin say before she left office? Over 70% of the people who are homeless in Seattle do not come from Seattle. So you spent trillions of dollars at this point on this homelessness crisis, which had 2,000 people who were homeless in King County in 2005. And now you have over 16,000. When are you going to say you're incentivizing homelessness? You're incentivizing drug addiction. You're incentivizing overdoses because all those numbers have only skyrocketed since you started spending the money to feed the beast. Well done, everybody. Why do they keep doing it then? You know why they keep doing this? I had a friend who I was talking to who owns some property out in Port Angeles, and he's having issues. Wait for it. You want to know why? They don't normally have these issues out in Port Angeles. Apparently a whole bunch of the drug addicts from around here were sent out to Port Angeles for the World Cup. So now he's dealing with them. And he says that now that he's dealing with these problems, now they're talking about maybe we need services for them. Maybe we need shelters for them because they figured out the grift. They figured out that as long as the people of Port Angeles want this stuff out of sight and out of mind, then we'll tax you a little bit. We'll tax you a little bit and you'll be fine. They figured out the grift. Because then if you don't deliver those services or give substandard services, you have a whole bunch of taxpayer money to spend on lots of other things. Other cities have figured out the grift. Well, I remember my friend Glenn Morgan told me he saw it in Bozeman, Montana. Why are there all these people out in the middle of nowhere? Because Bozeman, Montana has figured out the grift. They have figured out the grift of Homeless Inc., and that's what they are doing. Speaking of grifters, up next, Hamas supporter Rashida Tlaib is defending the Antifa leader who got sentenced to 100 years for shooting a cop. I kid you not, the left has lost their minds. So she's defending a domestic terrorist? Oh, that makes sense. She loves the foreign terrorists. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Oregon ICE facilities. We know that Antifa keeps showing up. We know protesters keep showing up. Well, now one judge has made their lives easier. According to the Post-Millennial, a federal judge in Oregon has ordered that fencing that was erected around a Eugene federal building that has become the target of violent anti-ICE riots must be taken down. The federal building houses Immigration and Customs Enforcement as well as other federal agencies. U.S. District Judge Mustafa Kasubi said Monday, the evidence is clear, convincing, really without any meaningful dispute, that for the time this place has existed, it has been a place where community has assembled to express themselves, said the Biden-appointed judge. Okay. I don't think attacking ICE agents is expressing themselves. Was it saying that amendment? Peacefully protest. Last time I checked. He sided with a group of activists who claimed their First Amendment rights had been violated by the fence installation and ordered the federal government to remove the fence within 48 hours. The activists argued that the fencing has also blocked access to a plaza that has traditionally been used as a public meeting ground. It was installed in late April because it was in response to the violent protests and riots that had occurred in the plaza. You have the right to peacefully protest. You do not have the right to riot. How many times do we need to go over this? How many times do we need to go over this? But this is somebody just legislating from the bench. They're legislating from the bench. This is going to go to the Supreme Court, and it probably will be overturned. But in the meantime, you basically have these guys saying, yeah, open season on ICE agents. That's what this Biden judge just did. And mind you, not everybody's doing this. The feds are doing things right. We told you yesterday about the Antifa leader, Benjamin Song, who was sentenced to 100 years for shooting that ICE agent in the anti-ICE terror attack back last year. I think this was last July almost. Last July is when this thing happened. What was it? July 4th weekend, I think. So you had 7 other Antifa terrorists who were also sentenced. You're talking about hundreds of years of sentencing because now we're talking about big boy time. I think they also shot some illegal immigrants in the process of attacking these guys. They had a whole plan, set off some explosives here, send them over here. This is where we're going to shoot them. It was a terrorist attack. So now after this, the Department of Justice is vowing to dismantle Antifa networks across the country after this sentencing. You have the Department of Justice saying that they're not going to put up with this stuff anymore and they're going to crack down on everybody. Quote, the census handed down today make clear that Antifa terrorists who attack any law enforcement and federal facilities will face swift and uncompromising justice, said Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Their violent extremism has no place in our country. Department of Justice will continue to aggressively investigate, disrupt, and prosecute those who threaten law enforcement officers or undermine the rule of law. That's all wonderful and great. That is wonderful and great. Except if you're a terrorist supporter. Representative Rashida Tlaib, the Democrat from Hamas, has now been defending the cell members who were sentenced. She is now defending them. The squad member wrote on social media, these sentences are a travesty and totally unjustified. So for a terror attack where a cop was shot in the neck, and it's amazing he survived, I forgot. You're the Democrat from Hamas. Of course you're going to side with the terrorists, foreign or domestic. See, some people take a pledge, a vow, to fight enemies, foreign and domestic. You seem to have taken a pledge to welcome them in. Welcome them in. What can I do for you today? She said, Americans hate the fascist Trump regime. So the only way they can try to cling to power is brute force. You're talking about a guy who shot a cop. Him and his co-conspirators had a plan involving explosives and snipers. She's mad about this. She is mad about it. Give me a break. Give me a break. She called them BS, but she used the full word terrorism charges. I think somebody's worried a few people are sniffing a little closer to her. I think they're worried about, don't get too close. Don't get too close. She's kind of scary, that one. I don't mean scary like I'm scared of her. I mean, just, well, whatever. We don't need to go there. Up next, my friends, I know a lot of you are concerned about the union you're in, especially teachers who listen to the show, but there is a better way forward where your union dues do not have to go to those unions. We're going to tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
newsmakers, hot topics, insider perspectives. Get your finger on the pulse. Newsmaker Spotlight, now on The Ari Hoffman Show, Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Last week, we had a bunch of you talk about how you couldn't leave your unions, how you're teachers and you want to leave your unions, but there's all these benefits to the union and you're worried you weren't going to have them anymore. It's like our next guest was listening to the show, because I got this email almost immediately talking about motivating public employers in Washington state to inform employees they have the right to join and fund or not join and fund a union. Joining us now to discuss, the director for the Centers for Worker Rights and Healthcare for the Washington Policy Center, Elizabeth New. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Ari. Thanks for bringing this up to your audience.
Absolute pleasure. It was impeccable timing, by the way. I'm sure you were listening to everything when you sent out that email, right?
You know, I'm down in Vancouver.
Okay, so
I claim Vancouver.
So we're going to take that as a yes. You were listening to every word of the show. Okay, so talk to the people who are tired of my jokes but want to know how they can get out of their unions, what their options are.
You know, my main gripe is that there's just a huge awareness issue, and so there's not a lot of handy information on the state website or in state worker rights posters about the right to join or not join a union and give them dues. So we created a one-page resource that public employers could adopt to increase awareness by giving it to people in onboarding materials or in their staff lounges alongside other posters that are required to inform workers of their rights. And there's also a way, there's various ways we've made available to inform workers about how to disassociate from unions if they want to. And of course, they have the right. A lot of people like belonging to a union. So this is just about worker awareness about the choice they have. There's a website called Opt Out Today that optouttoday.com, I think it's com.org, and they have instructions for people in every state belonging to various unions that can help instruct you too.
Now, just to play devil's advocate for a second here, because we are the most pro-devil show on the airwaves, is that regarding this, the left doesn't want to lose its money, they don't want to lose their power, and are they going to retaliate against people who do this?
Well, they're not supposed to be able to. And so, no, you're not going to lose a job or something because you're not a union member. They do not have any incentive to let people know about the right to join or not join the union. And so they're not. Right now, unions have special access to new hires that other third parties don't get. And they're given one-sided information about union membership. That's why we think it's so important to have public employers actually giving workers information in their onboarding materials about the right to join or not join the union.
Now, we talk about this a lot regarding teachers, but there's plenty of public sector unions that people are part of and feel like they're kind of stuck in, right?
Right. I do think the people I've talked to in my career, it's more often educators who don't know they have this right. I don't know if they're just better at keeping it quiet in the schools or the peer pressure is so great that it's not talked about. But yes, you're right. There's employees in county, city governments, all over the place who can benefit from just knowing they have a right.
Now, I'll tell you something else, is that a case I make all the time is that regardless if it's teacher or it's construction worker or whoever it is, anybody in a union, we should be encouraging more kids to go join the unions, to go to trade school, because they won't graduate college with a useless degree and debt. And then if you give it enough generations, like the DSA is taking over America, we'll control the unions. It kind of bothers me when we talk to conservative parents all the time and say, get your kids out of the public school. Well, I can't. And here I'm saying, instead of sending them to college, which you complain about all the time, and you complain about the public schools all the time, send them to join a union. What would you say?
You're talking to a mother of two recently high school graduated boys. Mm-hmm. And, it's a different economy, and there's so many options available to young people that are beyond college. I always told my kids, find what you kind of want to do and see what path can take you there. Don't just automatically follow the education path because everyone's doing it. And I do think, people find unions valuable. There are also trades and trade shops that have non-unionized workers, and sometimes they feel they're better employed and treated than others. But this is all about choice. It's all about choosing where your money goes and not being obligated if you're a public worker. This right doesn't belong to people in private relationships. You choose to join a private employer, and if they require union membership in one way or another, you choose that when you choose them. But for public workers, they have a right to join or not join. Taxpayers fund their paychecks, and this is what that's about.
In the last few minutes, we have with Elizabeth New, who's the director for the Centers for Worker Rights and Healthcare over at the Washington Policy Center. So do you have any success stories that can maybe inspire people who may be a little nervous about doing this?
I just know the relief that some people tell me they feel when they're no longer being sent mailers that tell them they're idiots and that they vote the wrong way, and they don't have to close their eyes every time they hear about new activity that their wages funded that they don't agree with. So, it really is up to the individual. If the union is doing political work you like, you may want to be a part of it. If they're not, you want out, and you should know about both of those options.
Elizabeth New, Director for the Centers for Workers' Rights and Healthcare over at the Washington Policy Center. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. You can check out all the information that Elizabeth has for you if you want to get out of the union up at washingtonpolicy.org. That's washingtonpolicy.org. Up next, my friends, lots more to discuss, including I went to see Supergirl at a press screening. And you can tell by the sound of my voice what kind of interview is coming up next, or excuse me, what kind of review is coming up next. Let's just say I want to fly away. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Well, my friends, I went to see the Supergirl movie last night, and Lenny Kravitz is exactly right. I wanted to get away. I wanted to fly away. Now, let me tell you who I went to see this thing with. This was new for me. Now, I used to take my sons all the time because my daughter was a little young, but now she's in high school and my boys are out of town. And usually I want to see the boy movies, but this is a superhero movie and it's Supergirl. Let me give you a little background. Do you guys remember the awful, terrible, horrible, no good, very bad Helen Slater Supergirl movie? If it has a special place in your heart for nostalgia, my brother the other day, he said, dude, go watch the Supergirl movie again with Helen Slater. And I said, no, because I watched it a couple nights ago and I couldn't get through it. It is so bad. It is so terrible.
For the comic book illiterate like myself, what is the difference between a Wonder Woman and a Supergirl?
Okay, different characters, sir. Supergirl is Superman's cousin from Krypton.
Okay.
So she gets launched out of a spacecraft off Krypton to Earth and lands later. Now, depending on when you start reading said comic books, in some cases, she's another dimensions version of Superman who comes to our world. Either way, she's from Krypton, same powers as Superman. The one from the 1980s where she's fighting a witch, unwatchable garbage. Absolute garbage. Terrible. Horrible. So I'm not looking at the new Supergirl movie of, oh my God, it's Christopher Reeve and you defiled his memory. No. I went to this on its own. So I took my daughter and I take my niece. My little niece, she's like 7, 8 years old, whatever it is. Take my little niece to go see this movie. My niece loved it because there's a girl flying around on screen and probably thinks of it as fondly as I thought of the Supergirl movie before I went and watched it and go, how did I ever like this garbage? No wonder my parents said it was trash and would leave the room when we were watching it. Because it's awful. But that's all the superheroes we had back then. Basically, you had Superman and you had Helen Slater, and that was about all you had. Then Batman rolls along, and you're like, yes, Batman. And then Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and you're like, this is over. I'm done with all this. Okay. The new Supergirl movie itself. It is terrible. But it's not terrible because it's woke. For those of you who saw the new Superman movie, there's a scene at the very, very end of the movie where drunk Supergirl shows up to the Fortress of Solitude, and you find out that Superman's been watching her dog Crypto the whole time. And it's funny, it's cute, it's clever, everybody laughs, and the joke is she likes to party on other worlds and that have a red sun, because Superman gets his power from a yellow sun, so does Supergirl, and then come back to Earth. It's funny. It's cute for a scene. It is not funny or cute for a whole movie. It's not funny to see Millie Alcock puking on herself throughout the movie and like peeing with the door open. None of that is funny. It's
Did not have that on my bingo card.
I know. You didn't think that. This is not funny. And it's not dramatic like, oh, her whole planet was destroyed and she was old enough to remember it. Not like Superman, who was a little baby. No, it's not like that. It is sad. It is awful. And there's nothing uplifting. It's not like the superhero arc where you go, oh, she's going to come out a better hero on the other side. No, she's still the same trashy human being she is on the other side. And unlike other James Gunn movies where there's the funny, they didn't bring the funny. There was nothing in this where I said, oh, that's funny. The appeal of Supergirl is seeing her doing super things on Earth, that she has decided to be a hero on Earth. Instead, literally her mother tells her in this movie before her breakaway city from Krypton that survived the Krypton explosion before it too meets its demise, tells her, you don't have to be great, you don't have to be any things, just be good. Just be good. I mean, be a good guy, but you could be a bad guy. Then there's Lobo. We have waited years for Lobo, the demon, to be on screen. We have waited years for this. And I gotta say, Aquaman playing, Jason Momoa playing him, did a fine job. Tragically misused, tragically underused. When there's this character you've been waiting years to see on the screen, finally shows up, and you go, that's it? That's all we got? I don't know who this movie is for, because we walk out of it, I don't say a word. I don't say a word. I even said something nice to the ladies with the clipboard, because they're so earnest. They stand there smiling. What'd you think? What'd you think? So what I told them and you can take this however you like, a little bit of dirt to go on James Gunn's Superman universe. That's what I said to the nice ladies. Give them a little thing to take. Oh, thank you. I also said that because I didn't want to say in front of my niece and my daughter how terrible the movie was. I wanted their reactions. So what's funny is I go, did you like it? And I think my niece just liked that her Uncle Ari kept her out way past bedtime. And she's got the diabetes. So we loaded her up with sugar and popcorn and all this kind because that's what uncles are. Her mom will fix it when she gets home. No, I'm just kidding. We had the monitor. We're tracking all stuff, but you buy them stuff they're not supposed to. You give them a little bit. It's not going to kill her. She's fine. Anyway, I mean, yes.
I don't know.
Sounds like it might actually. She's fine. She's fine. We kept an eye on her. But you take out the niece, right? And you want to give her a good time. So I didn't want to spoil the good time. I go, did you like it? Yes. Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. She had no idea what was going on in this movie. And she just sees Supergirl flying around. That's all she cares about. And she's not even flying around that much. And I said to my daughter, I go, sweetie, did you like the movie? And she goes, yeah, I really liked it. And then once we dropped off my niece, I go, so did you like the movie? And she goes, well, so I don't know who this movie is for. I really don't know who this movie is for. A lot of parents are going to opt not to take the little kids because of all the drinking and the cussing and the peeing with the door open and the puking on herself and all that, which you expect from a James Gunn movie. But if it's not for the teenage girl either to like it, who is this movie for? The comic book dorks like me are going to hate it, absolutely hate it. There's no upside to this. You're on all these alien worlds the whole time. No, I want to see Supergirl doing super things on Earth. So I'm going to say this is a hard pass. And if you feel like you need to see it, wait for the HBO Max release of the Supergirl because it is not worth the price of admission at all. And I'll tell you something else. I think they know they have a stinker on their hands. Millie Alcock, I think she probably saw this beforehand and she decided to say, oh, it's conservative men who won't like this. No, it's a bad movie. I don't even know where the woke stuff is. They might be setting her up to be a lesbian Supergirl, but they didn't actually do it. They might be teeing that up. Maybe.
I'll see if she's doing interviews for the movie.
Okay.
She seems to be my age and single.
Don't sell yourself short, dude. You're better than this gal in this movie and everything else. You could do way, way better.
You're saying there's not going to be a payday associated with this one?
No, this is going to be you were in that movie? Bye.
Well, you had the chance to get Sydney Sweeney's number from her grandmother, and you didn't do that.
Sorry, you're right. I did blow it on that one. By the way, I did think to myself, Sydney Sweeney would have been a much better Supergirl than this gal. Would have been way better for the role, not the movie. The script was terrible from the beginning. There is no saving this movie. There is no saving grace. She's not the problem. The script is the problem, and it's not woke. It's just terrible. So when people start saying, oh, the new Supergirl movie's woke, because wait, any minute now, and our conservative outlet friends are going to talk about how woke the movie is, it's not woke. It's garbage. It's not good. It's a poorly written script. Before I forget, my friends, your chance to win fantabulous prizes today over at KVI.com. We're giving away tickets to see Hinder and Blackstone Cherry live in concert on July 3rd at 7 p.m. Head on over to KVI.com. Enter right now for your chance to win. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends, including final hour free for all, your calls, your thoughts, your text, your stories. Plus also is Mamdanis' message of socialism and jihadism really taking over America. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Katie Wilson. Yeah, she claims she's doing all the stuff to clean up 12th and Jackson. Why does it look exactly the same? But before we get to any of that, my friends, I want to compare for a second Donald Trump and Zoran Mamdani. So last night, we saw that all these Zoran Mamdani acolytes, endorsed candidates, won their primary races in New York. And you think to yourself, what does this have to do with me? Well, first, I'm going to tell you something. None of these candidates are actually Democrats. They're all members of the Democratic Socialists of America. I remember Mike Myers on Sunday Night Live years ago when he had Linda Richmond for Coffee Talk. I will tell you, I'll give you, talk amongst yourselves. I'm getting verklempt. I'll give you a topic. The Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire to discuss. And that's what I'm thinking here. They're not Democratic. They're not socialists. And they're not Americans. Or in some cases, they hate America and want to destroy America. That's who these candidates actually are. These terrorist supporting, saying we deserve 9/11 lunatics, that's who got elected last night. That's who Zoran Mamdani got elected. These jihadi supporters, that's what they are. Yeah, they're all demonizing AIPAC and talking about how America deserved 9/11 and saying other awful things. But do you realize what's happening? You realize that the Democratic Socialists of America, that are none of those things, are actually taking over the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is being eaten alive. You have all these people who wear the Democratic Party's label, but they're not Democrats. Last night, after this group won, Claire Valdez, who's one of these endorsed candidates, this is what the crowd was chanting at Hakeem Jeffries, House Minority Leader, who always wanted to be Speaker of the House, but not if these people get elected.
You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next! You're next!
They're chanting that because for them, Hakeem Jeffries, far left progressive, isn't far left enough for them. You remember that one of these candidates, Brad Lander, beat Dan Goldman. Dan Goldman, who yesterday, he got, or was it Monday, he goes into a coffee shop, or Monday we find out he went to a coffee shop over the weekend with his daughter. The coffee shop banned him because he supports Israel, so you banned a Jew in the year of our Lord 2026, right? I mean, come on, guys. You banned him in 2026. Ban him there. And then you're saying, well, you know, he's not left enough for us, even though this guy is suffering from massive Trump derangement syndrome. This guy attacks Trump any kind he can. And when CNN asked him about what happened at this coffee shop he got banned from because he supports Israel, he went over to attacking Trump, not saying the DSA doesn't support me. He's so worried about losing his primary that he says, oh, well, you know, Donald Trump. You can never be left enough for the far left. This is why I tell candidates who are running for office out here, if you're running for office and you're a Republican, don't pretend to be a Democrat. You will never be left enough for the mob. You'll never be far left enough for them. Now, here's something interesting. I see parallels between what's going on there and MAGA. But here's the difference. I agree with what MAGA does. MAGA loves America. Make America great again. But what I'm going to compare is how President Trump took over the Republican Party to how Zoran Mamdani is destroying the Democratic Party. Let's go back in time. Let's go back to 2012. In 2012, what happened? Barack Obama was not popular at all. Not popular at all. So he was worried about losing the reelection against Mitt Romney, the most milquetoast white guy you've ever seen before in your life. So what did he do?
And I've seen a mirror.
Exactly. Okay. So he cobbled together this coalition of BLM and all these other crazy activists, built this coalition telling them they're oppressed, and they should put him back into office. And he won using that strategy. Well, now you've got to feed the beast. This coalition wants more. He went to the only people who liked Obamacare because it was steps towards socialized medicine. He goes towards them and he goes, you reelect me and I'll get you more. I'll get you more. And he got together the anti-Israel types and the anti-American types and anybody who felt they had been wronged. Anybody. And he gave them power. And the left says, well, now that we have this built-in army, let's elevate them more and more. Let's expand them more and more. It's a big tent. It's a big tent. And now this monster is out of control. We saw it the most out of control in 2020. You had the Summer of Love. You had all these riots. And I remember the day in 2021 when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were sworn into office. That same group rioted in downtown Seattle, smashing out the windows of the original Starbucks. And the graffiti they put on the ground said, doesn't matter if it's Biden, doesn't matter if it's Kamala Harris, rinse and repeat, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were not left enough for them. So what Mamdani's doing is Mamdani's saying, look what I did. We were able to target these elections that people either didn't have good candidates running or heavily Democratic, so you know the Democrat's going to win. And they went head to head with hardcore lefties and defeated them because they weren't left enough for them. They weren't jihadi loving enough for them. They weren't socialist enough for them. They weren't America hating enough for them. It's basically the Barack Obama model. This is what's been going on in Washington for years. Look how much Washington has changed just since Obama was president. Look how far left everything has gone, even since 2020. It's only gotten worse and worse. Now let's take President Trump for a minute. In 2012, we had the autopsy. The Republicans did a study which was showing the Republicans need a massive rebrand. Nobody likes them. They lost to Barack Obama, even though he wasn't popular, even though he didn't have the huge surge he had before. How could we lose to all these radical candidates? How could we lose to all these radical activists? And basically what it showed was the Republican Party was ripe for a takeover. President Trump is not a conservative. He's not. He's a populist. There are many things I like about him. There are many things I disagree with him on. When you're looking at it from a pure conservative ideology, tariffs, not a conservative ideal. Not at all. He did that to get the union support, and he likes them, and he wants to pay off the debt. We can disagree with them. We can agree with them. We can debate the tariffs. Not a Republican ideal, and that's just one item I'm picking on. But President Trump saw that the Republican Party was ripe for takeover. And he had his family members working at the RNC, and he was able to do the exact same thing. Now, I had no problem with it afterwards because I think that President Trump's first presidency was amazing. It was incredible. Prosperity, bring back patriotism, bring back the military, peace in our time, all this amazing stuff was all fantastic. So I didn't really care about the Trump takeover of the Republican Party because it worked. It was fine with me. If you look at the Republican Party now, they repeat the Trump talking points because you support your guy in office. What's funny is watching the RNC supporting the Iran deal when you could tell they don't agree with it. You can see in their press releases they don't like the memorandum of understanding, but they're saying President Trump reopened the strait and is going to stop Iran. And they wrote it as nicely as they could, but nobody wants to get on Trump's bad side. So what Trump did was now it's, do you have Trump's endorsement or not? And if you don't get it, that's the kiss of death. The Republican Party is now the Trump Party, better or worse. That is the way it is. I happen to align with most of the things President Trump does, so I am fine with that takeover. But I ask my Democratic friends, are you fine with the Zoran Mamdani takeover? He's just the most popular one. This has been happening here in Washington and other blue cities and blue states for years. Jamie Peterson, Senate Majority Leader here in the Washington legislature, has not been endorsed by the 43rd Legislative District Democrats, which is his district. He has not been endorsed by the King County Democrats. They're endorsing somebody who's even more far left than him. And this is the guy who has backed every insane proposal of the left. But apparently he's not left enough for them. This is the guy who brought us the income tax. This is the guy we are working to defeat with the income tax. And apparently he's not left enough for them after the most recent session, which was one of the craziest sessions the Washington state legislature has ever seen. There's nothing democratic about these guys at all. Old school liberals, they believe in freedom of speech. They still believe in strong national defense. They don't want to defund the police. All this stuff has co-opted the Democrat Party. And that's what you're fighting against these days. So I got to ask my Democrat friends, are you just voting for these guys because there's a D next to their name and you want to win and you want to beat Trump? Because that's what they're counting on. That is exactly what they're counting on. Who's the Democrat? Who's the Democrat? Now you got an interesting thing where you have Democrat versus Democrat. And the radical activists show up to vote en masse. So, for example, in August, that's when our primary is. It's usually right after Seafair. It's usually on National Night Out when people are hanging out with their kids and shutting down streets and having block parties. That's when our primary is. It's in the middle of the summer. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's paying attention. They usually have really low voter turnout for that. And that's how these candidates get through, because the radical activists show up to vote and everybody else goes, I'll wait till the general. I'll wait till the general. And this is what you end up with. Zoran Mamdani, the DSA, and the jihadi supporters know this. They know this. You want to know how radical some of these guys are? Here's Amber Quass. She won the Democrat Party last night for state Senate seat in New York. Give a listen.
And finding that, the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., and Islamophobia have all been used, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is like a long trajectory. And we're just seeing the manifestations of that continuation, right, with 9/11. And so a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, attack, right, if you look back, historically, right, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged, right, and a lot of times because of U.S. policy or the policies in Europe. And so I find that we can connect over that, but then also that the idea that we have to apologize for a terror attack that a couple of people did, and then there is no apologies or reparations for genocides and for slavery, etc., is something that I kind of find reprehensible.
So she's saying America deserved 9/11 because she thinks they're colonizers and evil and terrible and awful. This is who just won the primary for state Senate in New York. She's the tip of the iceberg, my friends. In fact, Speaker Johnson called out this insanity for Hakeem Jeffries, saying, you don't know the monster you've unleashed. They're coming for you next.
You saw the result of this latest, these primary elections for the Democrat Party. The headlines this morning say it all. I've got a collection of them here. Socialist earthquake, one of them said. Mamdani candidates sweep New York House races. These are socialists. These are Marxist in their ideology. Next headline, Mamdani hails new chapter for Democrats, one of the Chirons said this morning on the news. Hakeem Jeffries, my counterpart, the Democrat leader here in the House, was booed at some of these return parties last night. You saw that on social media and some of the clips. When he was being interviewed on the screen, the crowds in New York, in his own backyard, in the Bronx, in one of these districts, were booing him. And they shouted, "You're next." Hakeem Jeffries has a tall task ahead of him right now. He's got to go out and somehow make a credible pitch to Democrat establishment donors that that's a good national investment right now. That's a tough one to make. He has just proven that he cannot even hold the line in his own backyard. How can he possibly defend against the Marxist march around the country in these other districts? This is not your father's Democrat Party, as we say all the time. Last night, among the incumbents who lost, Adriano Espiat, who's chair of the Democrats' Hispanic Caucus, Dan Goldman, who was mocked for his Jewish heritage in a coffee shop in New York and maligned online because of that. The Democrat Party, the socialists, the Marxists, have nominated some of the most radical candidates to ever run for office, and they're running for Congress. The insurgent left is on the rise. I was reminded all last night and this morning about the warning, the admonition from...
By the way, here's the thing, guys. The Republicans shouldn't get too comfortable. Apparently, the Republicans decided to troll House Minority Leader Jeffries and send him flowers like he's next kind of thing, like, sorry, you lost your party. You shouldn't be trolling him, guys, because these guys are going to be going head-to-head with you. And it's not you versus a Democrat you might be able to work with or do some bipartisanship stuff. You've got these psycho-lefties. Is anybody talking about any of the Republican nominees? Is anybody talking about how great they are or what their ideas are? All the momentum is on the Democratic side of the aisle. President Trump may have endorsed some good people. Nobody in the media is covering it, but that's the mainstream media. They're talking about all these lefties. So you had a whole bunch of jihadis win yesterday. You had a whole bunch of crazy people, Marxists and communists win. You want to hear how the media is talking about them? Here's ABC's Good Morning America.
So we're going to go now to results coming in from high-stakes primaries. Some of the most closely watched contests were here in New York for seats in Congress, and it was a big night for Mayor Zoran Mamdani and the candidates he backed. Jay O'Brien is on Capitol Hill with the latest for us. Good morning, Jay.
Michael, good morning to you. Exactly right. A big night for New York Mayor Zoran Mamdani, taking on the Democratic establishment, putting his political influence on the line and helping hand-picked candidates get to primary wins that now call into question the ideological future of the Democratic Party itself. Mamdani tapping 3 candidates who ran to the left of their Democratic opponents, who were endorsed by more establishment figures like House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, all 3 of them winning, and 2 even unseating sitting Democratic members of Congress like Dan Goldman, who was beaten by former New York City Comptroller Brad Lander in a race that focused around the war in Gaza and Goldman's support for Israel. Mamdani's endorsement also helping Democratic Socialist Daraliza Avila Chevalier beat sitting Democratic Congressman Adriano Espaillat. That was a tight race. After last night, Mamdani's endorsement clear, its weight of it clear in New York City, but it's unclear exactly how far his influence extends beyond deep blue New York City. For instance,
so I'm going to stop you right there. They leave out the anti-American stuff. They leave out the jihadi stuff. They leave out the terror support. They leave out all that. What a sanitized version. It's just socialism. It'll be fine. What a sanitized version. Now, I know that's Good Morning America, and they're supposed to be happy and bright in the morning and talk about fishing or whatever they did that weekend. That's what Good Morning America does. But the entire media is doing that. They are whitewashing how extreme these lunatics are. They all have track records of saying crazy. None of them have any experience whatsoever in the private sector. They all want the end of America. They all want the end of capitalism. They all want the end of Israel. They all want the end of Jews. These guys are psychotic, absolutely psychotic, and they think America is the biggest evil ever in the world. At least, there is one sane Democrat left, and they're trying to challenge him. And of course, that's John Fetterman.
To this, because to me, this represents nothing of the old Democratic Party that we once knew.
Yeah, no, I mean, the kind of people that are trying to run out of office. I mean, they're just good traditional kinds of Democrats you would have expect in New York City now, and now this has just become it's just been the dancing days of the dirtbag left. With some of these candidates are outrageous. You have candidates, they abolish ICE, abolish the police, abolish the border. And she even said F Kamala Harris and more of these outrageous kinds of things. And then you have like Mamdani. He was grieving a Hamas sniper was killed by Israel just the other day, and he was grieving that. I mean, these are emerging the full pro-Hamas wing. A lot of these candidates that very likely are going to win tonight just declaring a war on just regular Democrats.
He's right. He's 100% right. That's what we're up against, and even he recognizes it. And let's remember, when he ran for office just a couple of years ago, he was seen as the far lefty. Which is insane to me that that's how far this party has drifted. You remember that Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton were seen as the far left. They would be moderate Republicans now, according to these people. This isn't your daddy's Democrat Party anymore. It's been taken over by radical activists. So radical, in fact, that some of the groups they're affiliated with are now under full investigation. We'll give you the details of what kind of stuff is being exposed by the feds and what they're investigating when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We've been telling you how radical a lot of the candidates are that won last night, and a lot of them have been endorsed or are affiliated with an organization called CARE, the Council for American Islamic Relations, which we have discussed many, many times on the show because of their alleged ties to terror. Recently, I cheered when a letter came out from the Department of Health and Human Services that this group was under active investigation for fraud in Medicare and Medicaid, especially with regard to resettling Afghan refugees. And we know a lot of that was happening right here in Washington State. Joining us now is a former senior advisor for HHS, John Fabricatore. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on the program.
Such a pleasure. I'm glad we could get you today because I've been tracking these guys for years. So what is HHS looking into regarding CARE?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of fraud going on right now. And, as HHS dives deep into looking into those things, CARE had come up, and it came up through Congressman Chip Roy, who sent a letter over to HHS, and HHS opened up this investigation. And it's basically, violations and taxpayer dollars that have been used or misused in the amounts of money that they've been given. They've been given millions of dollars. And it looks like in some of the Afghan legal service projects, they received, $7.2 million, but only documented services for 177 Afghan clients. So, different things like that they're going to dive deep into and, find out exactly where all this money went.
Now, what's interesting is they're going this route because there's other allegations against these guys. I mean, there have been calls for the IRS to investigate them. There have been calls for their nonprofit status to be revoked. Something that bothers me for a minute is one of these Afghan refugees drove across the country from right here in Washington all the way over to the other Washington to allegedly shoot 2 members of the National Guard.
Yeah, during Operation Allies Welcome, when we had a lot of Afghan refugees come over here to the United States, there's been a lot of talk that the vetting was not great at all, and that's something that definitely Congress needs to continue to look into. So when organizations like this say that they're spending this money on a lot of these Afghan refugees, and it's in the millions, it's $36 million. CARE, their IRS filings possibly conceal millions in government grants. Money. There's a lot of these issues, and we need to continue to look into these grants. We need to continue to look into where our taxpayer dollars are being spent. So this is definitely a good thing that HHS is looking into this.
I find it interesting, and we're talking with former senior advisor to HHS, John Fabricatore, about the investigation into the Council for American Islamic Relations, which we all know was an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest terror financing trial in U.S. history, the Holy Land Foundation. From the stuff you've seen, does it just seem like all the donations started going to CARE as opposed to the Holy Land Foundation, and all of a sudden they started spending the money, the same things they were spending it on terror, or that's not your aspect of the investigation?
It's definitely something that needs to be looked into. I mean, where the trails of this money went, CARE should be able to show HHS exactly where every bit of that money went. But unfortunately, with some of the things that they say that they spent money on, it's very easy to conceal where the money might be spent, especially when they start to say that they're spending it on legal services. It's very easy to hide that money and hide hours that they say that they spent with clients and actually send the money, as you're saying, toward terror organizations.
Right. This is something that, just from my own perspective, my synagogue, for example, got a grant for security from Homeland Security. And the amount of hoops we have to jump through to get that money, you got to fill it out. I mean, we're doing this under the Trump administration, so very different under the Biden administration, where they're asking for all these details. And I'm wondering how they got away with this for so long. Was nobody even looking at it? Was it just let's send a check and now the Trump administration is looking at it?
Yes, exactly that last part. Exactly, that's what happened under the Biden administration. So these grants were filled out. No one was looking at these grants and overseeing them. And this money was just given out to so many different organizations and the refugee networks and, some of these NGOs that have just taken that money and not used it for the purposes that it was supposed to be used for. And they're, misusing this money. And in this case, some of that money may have gone to terror organizations.
In the last few minutes we have with John Fabricatore, who's the former senior advisor for the Department of Health and Human Services. What exactly do you guys think they were doing this? What are they being accused of doing, or what are you investigating?
Well, I don't know exactly where they're investigating. That's a lot of the law enforcement purview on that with the Office of Inspector General within HHS. But what they're going to look at is undisclosed expenditures, different outlines of potential violations of state and federal law. They like you mentioned earlier, they'll have to look at their what they told the IRS that where this money went. So HHS needs to look at where money has gone all over the board. There's a lot of fraud, as you've seen in Minnesota and Maine, and things that are being uncovered in Chicago. Continuously, there was a lot of money that was given out under the Biden administration that was just gone to enrich people and may have been used to further chaos within the United States.
Well, John, I'll tell you this, is that I've been tracking these guys a long time, but from a different angle. And you've got my cell phone number now. You've got my contact information. So if any of the information I have might help you guys with your investigation or anything going on, please feel free to reach out to me.
Appreciate that, definitely. Again, this is something I'm glad the Trump administration is looking into, that they take this seriously. HHS is taking this seriously. Secretary Kennedy said he's going to look into this, and it definitely will get done.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to holding these guys accountable. John Fabricatore, former senior advisor for the Department of Health and Human Services. Thank you so much for taking on this job. Thank you so much for doing the work. And thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, have a great evening. Thank you.
You as well. Got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, my friends, including the latest from the Third World Cup. Sound Transit got back to me with some answers to my questions about how they're tracking all these people on the light rail and are any of them paying for it. Give you the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Sound Transit needed a win. Sound Transit needed a big win. Because don't forget, heading into the World Cup, it was, all those things you voted for and all those things we promised you and all those things we taxed you for that we can't deliver? Yeah, you're never getting any of them because we can't deliver any of them. We don't have enough money and we're bad at our jobs. So they needed a big win. Have you noticed all the press releases coming out from Sound Transit? Record number of riders. Let's read the latest one. Link Light Rail drew approximately 280,000 riders on Friday, June 19th, far exceeding the previous high water mark of 220,000 set earlier this year during the Seahawks Super Bowl parade. Light Rail operated peak service from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Friday, bringing soccer fans from across the region. Okay, stop that, from across the region. How many of these guys do not live here? I'll tell you by the patrioticness that I saw, they do not live here. I will promise you that. They do not. So it's across the country. So automatically you're importing a whole bunch of people. CEO Dow Constantine. Dow Constantine. Yes, that was perfect for that. Friday was a momentous day for Sound Transit with the highest ridership in our agency history. We operated peak service well into the evening, blah, 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 blah. I'm grateful to our employees, blah, 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 blah. I'm still not giving you back your tax money or building your train for you. That's basically what he said. But we have questions here. We have very important questions that we're not getting answers to. Question number one.
I'm not upset it's being used. You built it. You might as well use it. That's good.
Exactly.
All I want to know is, how'd you count the people?
Exactly.
Because I know how Limebike counted the people.
How did Limebike count the people?
By how many people scanned the code and unlocked a bike.
Right. But there's a little problem with Sound Transit. There's no fare gates. There's no turnstiles. And anybody can walk onto the thing. How do we know how many people attended the match at Seattle Stadium, otherwise known as Field, formerly known as Lumen Field? How do we know how many people attended? By how many tickets they sold. So how are you tracking this? Because it's not by tickets sold. Now, I reached out to Sound Transit with a very nice, reasonable question. Here's what I wrote. Hang on a second. I'm going to scroll down so I can read to you verbatim what I wrote. How many of those people paid for light rail during the massive numbers that have been reported? I'll take a percentage if you don't have the exact number of people, which I think is a very fair thing, right? Also, how is it being tracked? Reasonable questions, right? Ari, while we know it was a big day for Orca card use and also for the recently launched debit credit card tap to pay, we are still parsing the data out by mode, train, bus, commuter rail, and agency as multiple transit providers use Orca. Probably can have a better answer for you soon. Hang on. You don't have the payment info. That's fine. But you told the entire media, and they all ran with the story, that 280,000 people rode that train and that it broke all these records. Why is it so hard for you to tell me how you counted them?
Open up the bank app and tell me how much is in there.
Or do that. That's one way to go. How much was there in there yesterday? How much wasn't in there then? Divide it by this many. You have an idea.
Because every other industry in the area has been talking about this. We're able, days in, the restaurants are out. Things aren't really up that much.
Yeah.
But, we track restaurants and hotels and air travel.
How do we track it, Zach?
With money!
With sales! So how are they tracking this?
Sensors in the doors.
No, it's not sensors in the doors.
That's true. That's what that thing said.
I know they say it's sensors in the doors. Okay, it's not sensors.
Which is my point is, even if it is sensors in the door, how dumb is that we prepared as they're building the trains and building the light rail? They go, well, golly, there's no chance we're going to put a turnstile in. That would be crazy.
That's crazy.
But I'll tell you what. Let's put a sensor in the door to kind of guesstimate how many people walk on and off.
Right.
That way we have an idea, even though we're not going to charge the people.
Right. So you have this massive influx of people. And for all you know, none of them paid. Now, I assume the tourists paid. I assume the tourists came here and they paid because in their cities they have turnstiles and other things, and they're probably shocked that nobody's on these trains actually enforcing the fare stuff. And with the thousands of people going, how would any of those neon vest guys actually get through the train? Ain't gonna happen. Zach, I don't know if I ever told you this story. In 2000, the Mets and Yankees were playing each other in the World Series. big deal for New York, the Subway Series. Rest of the world didn't care, but we cared, all right? And we had tickets to a bunch of the games because my father had tickets to the games. So I remember one game I had to go from school to Yankee Stadium. Luckily, my school was on the same line as Yankee Stadium, but I had a little problem. I was kind of in the first third, but I wasn't at the beginning of the line. That line went to Grand Central Station first. That line went to all these other places. By the time that train showed up at my stop, the third or fourth one, because they had to add extra trains, I had to squeeze myself into the doors. And they were just bypassing stations. But when they weren't, when they had to let people off, you had so many more people come on and come on. There was no prayer anybody else could get on. But you know what? They all paid for the train because you have turnstiles in New York City. Yes, you have people that jump the turnstiles. We all know this. But this was in the Giuliani years. If nobody's jumping no turnstiles.
If carnies can figure it out, why can't the city of Seattle? Or the region, the region.
Exactly. So they're going to come out with this thing of how much extra money they got from the World Cup. They'll eventually have that number. But realize how much more it could have been if you had turnstiles. And they want to pay for these extra lines that are going to Ballard and going to West Seattle and going anywhere else. You know what would have been a great way to do it? The turnstiles. Would have been a great investment, but they won't do that because the homeless people then can't ride the trains.
Somehow every other part of the city was able to invest a little bit for the World Cup.
Yes.
They were able to spruce up this or clean up that or put a fancy banner on a vacant building. But Sound Transit does jack squat.
Exactly.
We can't put a turnstile in?
Exactly.
Hey, we're going to have all these people to bring so much money to the region. That's great. Are we going to charge them? No.
No. And you know what's even worse? This isn't the first time. Taylor Swift comes to town. Hey, Swifties, ride Sound Transit for free. Major League Baseball brings the All-Star Game. Hey, baseball fans, ride Sound Transit for free. And then, my favorite one, every New Year's Eve, ride Sound Transit for free. Oh, it's Pride Night. Ride Sound Transit for free. Anytime there is an influx, this is the opposite of price gouging. This isn't even that. This isn't even making the money you're entitled to make this money. It's just ride it for free. Now, are they doing that because they really just want everybody taking this thing and they're going to hit us all with it later like they do with certain freeways around here and certain bridges around here? Or you like that parking ride we got you to go to? Well, now you got to pay for parking there. Or is it just, we really want it to be free for everybody?
It's not the addictive form of transportation they make it sound like.
No, it's
Hell,
really,
if they do
really
it once, they'll love it. No, you do it once and you I hope I don't have to do that again.
Exactly. In fact, my sister-in-law, this is so funny. My sister-in-law, she's from Seattle, and she doesn't live here anymore. She lives in New York. But content is content because she's a social media influencer type. So she decided to go downtown and look at all the stuff. And what's so funny is she's one of these social media influencers where everything's positive. Everything's positive. Oh, this is great. This is great. But I know her well enough. So she's on the train with my other sister-in-law. They're taking the train downtown. And she goes, hey, we're on the light rail. I've never taken the light rail before. Smells a little like pee. But, hey, it's beautiful. It's great because she's being positive. But you can't ignore those little things about Sound Transit around here, right?
I'm glad we got fabric seats. Those are good. Those are nice.
Wait, didn't they replace it with some kind of vinyl that's easier to clean the blood off of? And all the other stuff, or they haven't really done that to all the cars?
You know what?
Yet?
Just go New York with the fiberglass thing.
That's
wipe
what you
down.
should, and it's cheaper. You should have done that from the beginning, but no, we got to have these. Dude, I will not sit down the light rail. The 3 times or whatever I've taken the light rail, I will not sit down on that sucker.
Stand up a little damper than you sat down?
Yeah, we had a coworker. One of our coworkers sat in a puddle of stuff. I'm not going to elaborate on air. See, we all know this story too.
Yeah.
Yeah, sad. Okay, after that, we need good news. Only good news to wrap up the show. Good news headlines, good news stories, put a smile on your face heading into the evening commute. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news headlines, I want to remind everybody that we are giving away tickets over at KVI.com, your chance to win tickets from multi-platinum American rockers Hinder, who are going to be live at the Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel with Blackstone Cherry on July 3rd at 7 p.m. That's right, my friends. As one of the few bands to grab massive crossover success, Hinder's 2005 debut album, Extreme Behavior, climbed to number 6 on the Billboard 200 chart and was the second top rock album. Hinder is coming to Snoqualmie Casino on July 3rd, and KVI is your chance to go for free. Head on over to the KVI website right now. Enter your information for your chance to win. Also, don't forget, tomorrow you get more chances to hear the words, so that way you can take the trip or keep the cash all morning long, also during the Ari Hoffman Show at 4 p.m. Just a reminder for that. Following the success of UFC's Freedom 250 event earlier in June, the WWE is reportedly interested in holding a similar event on the White House South Lawn. Okay, guys. I mean, I'm fine for real sports, but the WWE, I mean, performative, whatever. I don't care. If it brings in revenue and brings in fun and we're not paying for it with tax dollars, I'm fine with it. Held on June 14th, UFC Freedom 250 featured a flyover from the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds. Did you see Dana White's face during that? When he's standing next to Trump, and Trump's standing there, saluting as he does during the national anthem. And Dana White has this grin on his face. He's kind of chuckling to himself like, yeah, I can't believe this is happening.
That's going to be the moment you think, did we really pull this off?
You see it on his face. Zach, if you haven't seen that clip, I'm telling you, it is worth it, because people have their opinions of Dana White. But watching that clip, he is a little kid all grown up. I got the Blue Angels to fly over the White House. I'm standing next to the president with my event. I can't believe this is happening. Following the successful event, wrestling news outlet WrestleVotes reported that the WWE was reportedly looking into ways to conduct an event at the White House. The outlet later learned that a White House show for the WWE isn't in the cards. However, it is something that WWE would be open to if the financials made sense. TKO Group Holdings is the parent company for both the WWE and the UFC. Newsweek reported that WWE is no stranger to outdoor events, has previously held wrestling events at military bases and on an aircraft carrier for U.S. troops. Trump has a long-standing history with the WWE, including being inducted into the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame in 2013. They said that Trump has been making a consistent impact on WWE since the days when Andre the Giant was still king. WrestleMania 4, WrestleMania 5 were hosted at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and has remained a frequent attendee of events. In 2007, Vince McMahon challenged Trump to a battle of the billionaires at WrestleMania 23.
It's the husband of the Department of Education, right?
Funny you should mention it. Guess who we got an interview with for 4th of July when we're going? That's right. I found out this morning, I get to talk to Linda McMahon.
Watch out. Don't give her a folding chair.
Yeah, because I'm worried about that. If she doesn't like the questions I'm asking, here she comes with the folding chair, cracks it against Hoffman's
Might
back.
be payback for us almost taking out Katie Britt and Lauren Boebert with the folding chair at the RNC. Administration's pulled an Uno reverse card on us.
The most dangerous folding chair in history is the one the RNC gave us at their convention. My God, that thing was dangerous.
It's the little stadium ones, like at a basketball game,
but
where they flip
automatically
up. Exactly.
Flip up. The problem was, here was the awkward thing for me. You had your fun watching if they were going to die or not, but I had to keep my hand on there until the last moment before their butts hit the seats. So it kind of looked, it's not a good look because I'm holding down the chair for them. You couldn't grab from the bottom. I tried.
What part of Lauren Boebert?
My God, that's bad.
What part of Lauren Boebert did you not hear either?
She might have thought it was an invitation. That's why later I had to go, no, my friend. No. All right. Anywho. So, yes, you had the battle of the billionaires. Trump's fighter, Bobby Lashley, ultimately defeated McMahon's fighter, Umaga, and McMahon's head was shaved by Trump. Yes, very, very exciting stuff. So, yeah, let's do that shenanigans on the White House front lawn. I think that would be a lot of fun. Meanwhile, this one here starts off bad but has a good ending. A former employee has been accused of theft of a beloved horse that was stolen from an Enumclaw area farm in April, but luckily recovered safely. King County prosecutors charged Janae Amber Westberg with second-degree burglary, second-degree theft of livestock in connection with the April 9th disappearance of a 15-year-old quarter horse named Reuben from Oak Crest Farms in Enumclaw. Investigators arrested Westberg, earlier in June, according to the sheriff's office, the case drew widespread attention after Rubin was taken from the farm, which is northwest of Enumclaw, during the early morning hours of April 9th. Surveillance video showed suspects arriving with a truck and a horse trailer before removing Rubin from his stall and driving away. Luckily, they were able to get him. Even though he's old, he held deep sentimental value. Now he is happily back with his owners, and the suspect is in jail. So even though this started off bad, had a good story for everybody. Just to remind everybody, it's going to be a great story for all of us. Friday, Zach and I broadcasting from a protest zone outside the World Cup as Egypt takes on Iran in Pride Night in Seattle. Protesters are already coming from both sides. I'm very excited. It's going to be like WrestleMania. You don't need WWE at the White House. We got it right here.
It could be a ruckus.
A ruckus.
A brouhaha, perhaps.
A
Fisticuffs.
row. There might be a row, you might say. Yes. Maybe not. Okay. It'll be a lot of fun. Either way, Zach and I, in the middle of all of it on Friday. It's going to be awesome.
The boss man is not allowed to leave. This is what happens.
We'll see you tomorrow for more insane stories, more exciting guests. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.